Under a vast, silent sky, Batu stood alone, feeling the crushing weight of the Mongol Empire pressing down upon him. The 13th century had seen his family rise to unparalleled heights, creating the largest empire the world had ever known, an empire that stretched from the rugged Mongolian steppes to the distant reaches of Europe. But now, that empire was fracturing from within, like a giant on the brink of collapse. The threat Batu faced wasn't from outside invaders. It was the whisper of betrayal, creeping through the ranks of his own bloodline, threatening to undo everything his family had built. The silence of the night reflected the turmoil within the empire, a once unified force now splintering, succumbing to ambition and self-interest. Batu's uncles, Tolui, Chagatai, Ogadai, had once fought under the same banner, a banner that united them in the mighty shadow of Genghis Khan, his legendary grandfather. Genghis Khan was a conqueror unlike any other, the force who had united the wild steppes, carving out an empire unmatched in history. Batu bore that shadow like a mantle of iron, every step burdened with the expectation to uphold the legacy of Genghis. Even Ogadai, chosen as the great Khan after Genghis, had struggled to maintain the empire's unity against the swelling tides of ambition. Now Batu's cousins, Guyuk and Monkey, whispered of division and sought their own supremacy, each plotting to carve out their slice of power. Blood ties that once held them tightly had become meaningless in a world where ambition was the new currency of power. Batu's father, Yochi, had lived his life beneath a shadow of doubt. Rumors questioned Yochi's birthright as the son of Genghis Khan, a stain that followed him throughout his life, and now tainted Batu's every step. Batu fought relentlessly to prove his father's honor, striving to show that he, too, was a rightful leader, born to carry forward the legacy of Genghis. But as the empire crumbled and loyalties faded, Batu questioned whether his father's honor and his own were slipping beyond reach, lost in the chasm of fractured unity. This was not some distant murmur of dissent. It was a storm raging all around him, tearing through his family and his people like a fire fueled by pride and greed. His cousins plotted in the shadows, and even among his own men, ambition gnawed at the hearts of those who had once stood beside him. The Mongol Empire, once bound by loyalty and purpose, now lay fractured, a giant brought to its knees by greed and pride. Batu clenched his fists as he paced through the camp, each step a battle against despair. The wind had fallen silent, the night thick with tension, as though even the world held its breath for what lay ahead. His heart pounded, not from the expectation of battle, but from a gnawing fear that he couldn't shake. Before him stretched the endless steppes, a vast, empty plain beneath a sky as consuming as the void now tearing apart his empire. As he turned, his gaze fell upon a torn banner flapping in the wind, a symbol of unity now fraying, tearing under the weight of ambition and betrayal. Batu felt as if that banner mirrored the empire's heart and his own, both hanging by threads. "Are you still with me, Odon?" Batu's voice was tinged with desperation, searching for a thread of loyalty amidst the growing storm. Odin hesitated, his eyes cast downward, conflicted. "It's not that I don't believe in what we fought for," he murmured. "But the empire isn't what it was. The Khan's grip is loosening." Batu's voice tightened, anger barely contained. "And what of loyalty? What of the unity we built with our blood?" Odon sighed, his voice filled with resignation. "We're not living in the past anymore, Batu. Things are changing." Without another word, Odin turned and walked away, his steps heavy and final. Batu watched him go, feeling the sting of betrayal cutting deeper than any sword, an invisible wound that left a scar on his heart. Is this how it ends, he wondered, the silence of the night now thick with the weight of abandonment and fear? Suddenly, the camp erupted into chaos as Batu's forces clashed in a storm of fury, the stillness shattered by the clash of steel and the cries of men. Batu drew his sword and threw himself into the heart of the fray, each strike a desperate attempt to hold his crumbling empire together. Blood splattered across his face as his blade met flesh. The familiar thud of steel slicing through armor and bone filled his ears in a deafening symphony of war. The ground beneath him was slick with the blood of comrades and enemies alike, each step a struggle for balance amidst the carnage. Batu's mind raced, faces of those he once called brothers flashing before him. Men who had once fought beside him for unity, now turned against him for power. Each swing of his sword was an act of defiance, a desperate bid to keep the empire from shattering, even as it slipped further from his grasp. By dawn, Batu stood amidst the fallen, his breath ragged, his sword heavy in his hand, dripping with the blood of those who had once been allies. The empire might be breaking, but as long as the sun rose, there was still hope, even if only a sliver. For his father's honor, for the brothers who had bled beside him, Batu would fight for every last piece of the Mongol Empire. This was his storm now, a storm that raged within and without. Like his grandfather before him, Batu would not be broken by the winds of betrayal and ambition. As the sun's warmth washed over the desolate camp, Batu swore to stand firm against the tides of division and deceit, carrying forward the legacy of Genghis Khan. The empire's heartbeat echoed in his own, and as long as Batu stood, so would his father's legacy.